Welcome back to another Millennial and Debt Money Chat. Just from the title alone, you know that we're going to be talking about budgeting and how I can help you help yourself, essentially, right? So we're going over 5 different budgeting techniques. Now, you do not want to try all 5 at one time. It's pretty much impossible since they all have different requirements and different needs in order to be successful, in order to help you successfully save your money. What you do want to do is choose one that you think will work best for you. And if it doesn't work, you have other options that you can try instead of just giving up and thinking that budgeting isn't for you. All right, so we're going to start off with the 50-30-20 rule. This one is pretty much widespread. If you Google 50-30-20, you'll get a million different articles. YouTube, you'll get a million different explanations. I'm going to break it down to you as easy and quickly as possible so we can move on to the other ones that might be beneficial to you as well. Now, the 50-30-20 budgeting technique takes 50% of your income and puts it towards your essential needs. So those are your bills, things that you have to pay every single month, or you're going to be homeless, hungry, or without gas and lights, right? So those are pretty much everything that is a necessity for you to survive. The 30% rule is for your personal payments towards yourself or your personal choices and expending. So that's going to the movies, getting your nails done, getting waxed, getting your hair done, whatever it is. 30% of your income goes directly to those expenses. And then the last 20% goes towards saving and paying down debt. Now, I think this technique works best for people who are just starting out with budgeting because it's pretty straightforward. The math is really easy. You have your total amount of money that you bring in every month, and then you just break it down into 50-30-20%. What I did not like about this technique personally was that I felt, and this was just a personal feeling, I felt that 30% was too high to spend on myself, and so I swapped it just for my own life choices and used 30% of my income for savings and debt payment, and then 20% I would use if I wanted to get my nails done every now and then, or go to a movie or catch dinner with a friend. So that was how I made the 50-30-20 technique work for myself. The second budgeting technique that we are going to talk about is the zero-based technique, and that is pretty much where you itemize every single thing in your life and you set a specific amount of money towards that particular thing. What I like about this budgeting technique is that it's not very strict. So those of you who find that really strict budgeting kind of makes you nervous or makes you anxious or you're just not really good at it, this would be the option for you. As you can say, one week you want to spend $10 on groceries and $30 on movie tickets and $50 towards whatever, bills, whatever. Very cheap life. But every single thing has to be itemized for every single dollar you bring in every week, every other week, every month, whatever it is. But there can be no dollar left unaccounted for. And this really helps you so you don't do random purchases and random buys. But it also gives you a lot of wiggle room where, okay, if I want to spend this amount of money on this particular type of thing this week, next week I can change it, right? So it does require a lot of brain power and math, and I don't like that. I like my budgeting to be kind of straightforward, but if you like a more looser budgeting method and you're really good at itemizing every single dollar you bring in, this might be the particular method for you to choose. The third type of budgeting technique is the snowball method. Now, I do recommend this method for anyone who has debt, as it is particularly focused on debt repayment as opposed to the 2 previously ones that I've mentioned, where they focus more on budgeting and saving money and just using your money responsibly. What the snowball method does is it focuses your money or your debt on paying down your smallest debt first. And then once that debt is out of the way, you take that payment that you were making and any of the extra payments that you might have thrown towards that way, and you target your next lowest debt until that one gets out of the way as well. So this technique works for people who have debt, and it can be used in conjunction with other budgeting techniques that I will be mentioning in this video. What I don't like, which is not really I don't like, it's just it doesn't have a place in the non-debt world. So if you do not have debt, one, you're lucky because I don't know anyone who doesn't have debt. But 2, if you don't have debt, this method really won't be very helpful for you. So I do recommend one of the other 4 that I will mention in this video. The fourth budgeting technique that I'm going to talk about is the reverse budgeting technique. This budgeting technique, and along with my adjusted 50-30-20 budgeting technique, really were the 2 staple techniques I use in order to help me pay off my student loans. And if you haven't seen that video, you can watch that up here, where I talk about paying off $100,000 in loans on a teacher salary. What the reverse budget technique is, you put a particular number in the air. Let's say you want to save $17,000 for the year. And I'm just saying that because that was my number when I was paying off my student loans. If you want to spend $17,000 in 1 year, on January 1st, you sit down, you do the math, and you divide how much money you can essentially comfortably pay on a weekly, bi-weekly, daily, monthly basis from now until whatever your end point is to get you to that total number. What I don't like about this for people who are new to budgeting or who struggle with budgeting, this one is very, very, very loose. And I find that people who are not good at budgeting struggle with this one a lot because they'll set it on automate and then something will happen in life and it's just like, oh, I have to stop this automation, or oh, let me just dabble into this money. It'll keep adding in later and the money will go back up, right? So a lot, I want to say 80% of our debt-free journey and our interaction with money is really based off behavior. So you know yourself, no one knows yourself better than you. If you know that you're gonna, reach into that pot, this technique might not be the best for you, but if you know you have a lot of self-restraint and you have a goal and that's the goal you want to reach by this particular date, this method is definitely highly recommended and worked so well for me. Fifth budgeting technique I want to talk about is the traditional budgeting technique. This is really the old school method that a lot of people have used. Some people also call it the envelope method. Although there are a little different. So the envelope method is really where you budget a particular amount of money and you get cash and you put that cash in those envelopes. So let's say your utilities are $100 a month. You would put $100 cash in an envelope, mark it utilities, put it on a cork board or in your drawer, whatever you want to do, whatever your aesthetic vibe is, right? And that is the envelope method. I don't really like having that much cash around my house. I don't really like carrying cash in general. So that technique never really worked for me, but for some, it really works and it helps them from dipping into their checking accounts, using cards to swipe a whole bunch of times. So that really works. The traditional method, also similar, works best for people who have steady jobs, a steady lifestyle. You get the same amount of money every week, every month, every other week, whatever your pay cycle is like, and you know what your previous expenses have been in previous months. So when you decide to do the traditional budgeting technique, you sit down, you're like, okay, this budget worked well for me for 2 months, or this is how much I spent this every 3 months, right? And you write this down and then you create your budget based off of your past spending. So that's why it's traditional, because it's just like, oh, this is what I traditionally normally do, right? So that method really isn't for me because I don't like to follow those types of rules, because some months I spend more than others and it's just hard for me to kind of calculate or estimate what I will spend this month, especially if I have a different focus or goal. And the sixth and final budgeting technique that we are dabbing into is the 80-20 technique. So this technique is for those who really hate budgets and all the other ones are just like, meh, not really interested. This one's straightforward, straight to the point. You take 20% of your income and put it towards your savings, 80% anything else. So that could be your monthly expenses, your bills, your mortgage, your rent, whatever it is, your food, movies, dates, whatever it is. That 80% is yours to play with, and that 20% is for savings. This, again, very loose. It's really for people who hate budgets, but they want to kind of try it out. I found that 80% to do whatever I wanted with that money was too loose for me. And again, 20% was a little low for my liking on savings, but 20% is a nice even number to start out with, especially if saving money is not something you enjoy, or saving money is just like really difficult for you. You can even start off at 10%, whatever makes you motivated to keep going. I vote you try that. So we have reached the end of our budgeting conversation, and I hope this video was super helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell at the bottom to get a notification when I upload every week, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.